My grandmother, Wynne, was living in Virginia. She had two children, Peter and Judy. Her husband, my grandfather Eddie, was working for the government, and it was during World War II. Wynne was alone in military housing and with two children, and then he came home for leave at sort of Christmas, the end of 1943, and that spring she discovered that she was pregnant for a third time and that the government was going to send him off again for an unknown amount of time. And the work he was doing was very secret, so she had no ability to know how long he would be gone, when he was coming home. She really knew nothing except for that she was going to be alone with three children under 3. And she clearly decided that she couldn't have a third child. So we found out through sort of letters and family connections that she sought out an abortion, which was illegal at the time, but her mother was a nurse in New York and knew doctors who would perform illegal abortions. And so she tried to use that method and actually traveled to New York, and something fell through. And so she came back having not had an abortion. But while she was in New York, she had visited her father, who was a doctor, who maybe could have also helped her. And he said no.
My mother had a stepmother who was French, who told my mother that, oh, in France, the women take care of this themselves.
She was at home in their apartment. She put her children down for their naps. Peter was 3.
Almost 3.
Almost 3, and you were 1.
Almost, no, 10 months.
10 months. And went into the bathroom, and when my grandfather came home at the end of the day, that's where he found her. And he called the neighbor and said, "Can you come right away? I think Wynne is dead." The coroner's report said that the cause of death was abortion due to mechanical intervention.
Yes, illegal self-induced abortion due to mechanical intervention.
She was a woman who had a college degree at a time when that was unusual for women. She was a white woman. She was from a family that was absolutely comfortable. She had so many ways in which she had control over her life. This woman who had tremendous privilege for her time and place. She didn't have this privilege for reasons of the law, and it turned out to be
fatal.
Wynne's story was, something that is still happening right now across this country for many, many of the same reasons. When people don't have access to a safe one, they make the decision anyway, and someone else gives them partial advice or bad advice, and then they do something incredibly unsafe out of desperation.
A pregnancy is a desperately beautiful and a desperately scary physical state to be in, and it's private. I have no business in my bedroom or my bathroom or my doctor's office. There are a lot of places that I don't understand what they're doing there, but they have no problem assuming that they should be there. It's shocking to me. It's absolutely shocking to me.
It's pretty intensely powerful and amazing that you can create another person with your body. And I can see why, if you don't have the ability to do that as a category of humans, that might make you uneasy, because it's incredibly powerful. As worried as I am that someone like Kavanaugh coming into power and rolling back women's access to safe abortion, I think about the women, even your generation, but the one before, and if something like this was visited upon you, you're supposed to keep it to yourself. And so even in the Kavanaugh hearing, even though he still got confirmed, what I saw also was all of the people refusing to not tell, refusing to stay silent. And that's powerful in itself. I think that's partly why we wanted to tell this story, because if we keep them private and we're not sharing them, other people who've never had them won't know, and then also people who have had them will think they're alone, and it makes it easier to keep that silence in place, and that silence is really dangerous.
Years later, I got a diagnosis of PTSD. I knew there was something wrong with me a lot of my life. I just didn't know what it was. And then later I found out I have something called reactive attachment disorder, which happens to children under the age of 3 when something traumatic happens in their lives.
Clearly remember, I was sitting in the front seat and you were sitting next to me, and I remember your hands being on the wheel. I just remember seeing all this tension in your body. So I said, "What about this uncle or aunt I never had?" And that you turned to me and said, "What about the mother I never had?" And that was the end of any debate I ever wanted to have on that subject, because who could argue with that?
Yeah.
Who can argue with that?